But let's start here. Apparently, there's a report that Trey Lance is not too thrilled over Jimmy Garoppolo remaining on the San Francisco 49ers. Right? That's the report that's out there. He's like, wait, that guy? Why is Jimmy still here? Here's George Kittle, his star tight end, talking about Trey Lance having Jimmy Garoppolo in the quarterback room.
While Trey's in the driver's seat and Trey gets to play quarterback, he has Jimmy G, who knows how to win games, and he can learn a lot from him. So, I hope that that's how Trey takes this, and he just continues to play his game because Trey's a really good quarterback. There's aspects of football that aren't just X's and O's, and they're not just throwing the football, that Trey's going to learn from Jimmy, like just how to carry yourself, how to do certain things. And Trey does a good job at that. Just Jimmy's been doing it longer, so he's just going to learn a lot of things from him.
He's going to learn a lot of things from him. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Do you guys remember the big talk of the draft? What happened in the draft with the Tennessee Titans? Anybody? You remember that, Jay Stu, right? What happened in the draft with the Tennessee Titans?
They drafted a backup for Ryan Tannehill, right?
Well, they drafted a quarterback who, at this point in time, will be a backup, right? Do you remember what Ryan Tannehill had to say when he was initially asked? Like, here's Ryan Tannehill. This was his initial response when asked what his feelings were about Malik Willis. What are you going to say, John Ramos?
I was going to say, didn't he say something to the effect of, "I'm not here to be I'm
not here to basically teach him
and stuff." Yeah,
right.
That's up to him.
He wants to learn stuff, and then of course, he got a lot of backlash. And here's the thing: I understand that from the outside looking in, the common theme from most sports guys, hey man, if you don't want competition, maybe you shouldn't play quarterback in the NFL, huh? That's my football guy voice. How's my football guy? My football guy voice is kind of like this, It's a little bit like, gotta support the team. But a little bit like putty. There's a little putty to it. If you don't want competition, well, you don't want to be a quarterback. Why not have competition for the quarterback? And then, if you're not any good, you replace the quarterback. And I understand that. And look, for Trey Lance to succeed, he has to be good whether or not Jimmy Garoppolo is there or not there. He's got to understand that guys are coming at him, and he should realize that he's making more money than Jimmy, plus the resources extended to get him. Remember all the draft picks that they had to send away in order to draft third in the draft? That's all the investment that's in Trey Lance. That's why he will get the right of first refusal. That's why he'll get the opportunity to fail several times over this year. It's one of two things: how much money you make, or the resources that were extended in order to get you. Again, that's why Baker Mayfield won the job in Carolina. Baker Mayfield is actually making less money than Sam Darnold, but when you consider the fact that they brought him in, they moved some resources, it became a thing. You don't trade for a Baker Mayfield unless you're going to play a Baker Mayfield, right? But this is a real thing. It's very difficult to be the leader of a franchise, and that's what you have to be as a quarterback when there's another guy who used to lead the franchise. That's just hard. We don't do that in business. When the CEO leaves the company, he doesn't bump back down to the CFO or to just, some, board member or whatever. When he's gone, he's gone. It makes it so that it's awkward. Why? Because, look, for lack of a better expression, too many Chiefs, not enough Indians. Right? That's an expression. It's an expression. So it's really hard to go from being cheap to be like, hey, man. What happens in the world of lions? And, I haven't watched a ton of National Geographic recently, but once you're head of the pack and you win the battle to be head of the pack, the other lion has to leave the pack. This is a real thing. Okay? Can you imagine what it's like to be that lion who used to be the big, Mufasa lion? And I was like, yeah, that's what happened to Scar. Scar became disenfranchised. That's really what it is. Scar's like the former starting goal. He was actually the guy who was the heir apparent. He was like the Jordan Love, and he just never matured into whatever. And then Scar went off, and he was with the Hyenas. You know how that went, right? That's not a spoiler. I don't need a spoiler alert for Lion King, do I? No. But it's very normal for a football guy to go, hey, man, tough it out. You know, everybody else has got two guys in the position. Everybody else has got to back up. You got to go buck up and play, big boy. And I believe in some of that. But look, I had friends that worked in the Indianapolis Colts organization when Peyton Manning was there. And I know that by now we believe Tom Brady is the greatest quarterback ever. I would tell you, I think that Peyton, if you ask most people, like, Peyton's probably better. He just didn't have as good an arm and didn't play for as good a team. But, Peyton, in terms of seeing the game, understanding the things he was able to do with his own limited at times skill set athletically. When Peyton Manning retired, most people thought that's the greatest quarterback ever, and now Tom Brady's passed him. So he's in any conversation of it. Peyton Manning, when the Colts would draft a quarterback, the first call that the front office would get as soon as they hung up with said quarterback, didn't matter what round, would be Peyton Manning. Who is this guy? I mean, there's a famous story about Tom Brady going to management, going to the owner in New England, and me or Jimmy G, and suddenly Jimmy G's in San Francisco, right? These things are not new. And I understand that look, you got a quarterback in Trey Lance who hadn't peed a drop in terms of quality football in the NFL. He has not proven himself. So it's smart for the Niners to have somebody who's a efficient, sufficient, ready, available backup who knows the system. But, man, there is just no way to explain the fact that it's going to be at least a little bit weird. It's weird. Right? It's super weird to keep the guy around. And it makes it challenging when it didn't necessarily have to be. It's the smart move on paper. If I'm the Niners and I got a ready-made team, it's a smart move on paper. Look, if he stinks, if he's not good enough, you get to about midseason, maybe make a change and you go back to him. Right? I mean, how many times did Ryan Fitzpatrick get a shot midseason at any of his multiple stops? You're like, the other guy, go look at all of his stops. They're all kind of the same. But what did it do in Miami? It upset the apple cart with Tua Tagovailoa. So this is one of those where you're not making a bad argument if you say that if you're really a competitor, if you're really good enough, it doesn't matter. But the reality is that the number one most important aspect of a successful athlete, and especially a quarterback, is confidence. And when you have somebody breathing down your neck, when you have somebody on the sideline who has led the same franchise to a Super Bowl, it hurts your leadership, also a huge aspect of being a quarterback. And it hurts your confidence. The most important aspect in being a great athlete, no less being a quarterback. It doesn't mean it can't work. It doesn't mean it won't work. It just means it sure feels like it's going to be more difficult for it to be seamless and smooth in a transition of power.